This is the D2 Sports Football Preseason Top 25 Poll Announcement Show. Welcome, everybody. I am your host, Dwayne Horner. From that first championship in 1973, with the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech defeating Western Kentucky 34-0, to the thrilling 49-47 win by Valdosta State last December. Division II is the home to the toughest road to a collegiate football championship today. Up to 11 straight weeks of virtual playoff football designed to get you a seed in the super regional rankings with the hopes of reaching McKinney, Texas and trying for that national championship. Over 150 teams competing week in and week out, from 100-degree temperatures to snowstorms. The athletes of Division II football play for that ring and that national championship. Today we are announcing the top 25 teams from across the country. We sent out invitations to all of the head coaches, athletic directors, and athletic communication directors, asking them to participate in this inaugural preseason poll, and the results are in. As we get to the top 10, D2 Sports Football will present you interviews with the coaches of those top 10 teams to congratulate them and to get their thoughts on the upcoming 2019 season. So without further delay, it's time for our D2 Sports Top 25 announcement show. Welcome back to the D2 Sports Top 25 Preseason Poll Announcement Show. I'm your host, Dwayne Horner. And now to the poll. At number 25, the New Haven Chargers from the Northeast 10, who finished 9-3 in 2018, making it past Westchester in the first round of the playoffs, but losing to Slippery Rock in the regional semifinals. Great Northwest Athletic Conference's Azusa Pacific is our number 24 team after a 8-4 season last year that saw the Cougars lose to Tarleton State in the regional quarterfinals last season at Tarleton State. Number 23 is West Alabama from the Gulf South Conference, which saw them make it to the postseason last year, but they exited after a first playoff game with a loss to Bowie State. At number 22 is the Hillsdale Chargers, who made it to the playoffs last season after posting a 10-2 regular season that ended with a regional quarterfinal win at Kutztown and a close loss to the eventual national semifinalist Notre Dame College Falcons 19-14 in week 2 of the playoffs. In at number 21 is Wingate from the South Atlantic Conference, who went 9-4 in 2018. That included a 41-31 upset of West Georgia in the regional quarterfinals, then a tough 21-17 loss to Lenore Ryan in week 2. And that's our first 5 in our countdown. When we come back, it's numbers 11 through 20 in our D2 Sports Preseason Top 25 Football Poll. Welcome back. After going 10-0 to start the season, our number 20 team is the Westchester Golden Rams, who went undefeated in that 2018 regular season, winning the PSAC championship, but stumbled in the 2018 playoffs when they lost to New Haven 35-28 in round 1, but they looked to rebound in 2019 as our number 20 team. Number 18, the Harding Bison of Arkansas from the Great American Conference and Super Region 3. Harding suffered a defeat at the hands of the national runner-up Ferris State Bulldogs by just 2 points after a valiant fourth-quarter comeback in the playoffs in 2018. Number 18 in the poll is Fort Hays State from the Mid-America Intercollegiate Athletic Association. They're coming off a 9-3 season that saw the Tigers make it to the first round of the Division II playoffs. Colorado Mines comes in at number 17 from the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference and Super Region 4. The Ore Diggers went 10-1 in the regular season, defeating both Colorado Mesa and Pueblo, but they suffered their lone loss, a heartbreaking loss to Dixie State, and then unfortunately they lost a rematch to Pueblo in the first round of the playoffs in 2018. Midwestern State comes in at 16 as the Mustangs became the third team in the Lone Star Conference to make it into the poll. Midwestern State failed, however, to make the NCAA playoffs last season after 3 straight trips from Super Region 4 in the past. The 15th team in our poll is another PSAC squad, Slippery Rock, who overcame losses to Shippensburg and Westchester to earn a playoff spot, defeating LIU Post and New Haven in the first 2 rounds, only to lose a close one, 21-17, to Notre Dame College in the regional final. UIndy comes in next at 14 after a tough opening season loss to Grand Valley State. The Greyhounds reeled off 10 straight wins after that, including a round 1 victory over Fort Hays State, 38-27, but they lost to Super Region 3 top seed Ouachita Baptist to end their season in the playoffs. Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference's Minnesota Duluth enters the poll at number 13 after a 2018 season that saw their 11-game undefeated mark end at the hands of the Lions of Texas A&M Commerce, the defending national champions, 33-17 at home in round 1. The Bulldogs are number 13. The West Georgia Wolves of the Gulf South Conference make it in at number 12 in the home of the defending national champion conference as they went undefeated until running into that Valdosta State squad and then Wingate in round 1 of the playoffs to suffer their last 2 losses after a great start to their 2018 season. And our final team is just outside of the top 10, and they are the Colorado State Pueblo Wolfpack, barely missing it into that top 10. Their only regular season blemish in 18 came to the Ore Diggers of Colorado Mines, but then they suffered a loss to Minnesota State 24-10 in the first round of the playoffs. And there you have it, the first 15. West Alabama, West Florida, LIU Post, Hillsdale, Wingate, Westchester, Harding, Fort Hays State, Colorado Mines, Midwestern State, Slippery Rock, Indianapolis, Minnesota Duluth, West Georgia, and Colorado Pueblo. When we get back, it's time to reveal the top 10 D2 Sports football teams in our preseason poll with interviews from the coaches in the poll. Okay, joining us now here on the D2 Football Top 25 announcement show for the preseason Top 25 is Kim Pate, the athletic director of Lenore Ryan, and head coach Drew Cronick. And gang, I wanted to let you know that you finished 10th in the poll, and congratulations.
Well, we're excited about that. We appreciate the opportunity.
Talk about, now you both came together to the university and things have really turned around. What brought you to the university, Ms. Pate?
Well, I came here 3 years ago, and I always knew that Lenore Ryan was a great school, having been in a league school previously, and I knew it was one of the a place that was really special and had the potential to be a top program in D2, and that's what really drew me here. And the people. It's a great culture, great place that's committed to excellence, and that's what brought me here.
Talk about then just your role as the athletic director and your role in bringing Coach Cronick there to Lenore Ryan.
Well, I think one of the most important things we do as athletic directors is hire, great people, and so I had the opportunity to make a football coaching hire a year and a half ago, and asking around other ADs and, people in the business, and Coach Cronick's name came up. And so I started researching him a little bit and reached out to him and asked him if he'd be interested in talking to me about our opportunity. And thankfully he was interested. And so from there, it just, I think both of us would tell you, and it just, we align. We realize that we talk the same language, and we believe the same things, and we're about the same things, and felt like we could build something, collectively special here.
In talking to other athletic directors around the country, one thing that seems to be the same throughout the country is when you have a really great role and relationship between the athletic director and the head coach, and that's what really builds a program. So it sounds like that's working really well at Lenore Ryan. Absolutely.
I'm so blessed to have Coach Cronick as my football coach. He's awesome. I don't want to make him blush here, but he's amazing to work with, and I couldn't be I couldn't have a better partner in the endeavor. He's honestly just a great leader for our entire department, and just how he approaches coaching, and how he just leads, and it's a good fit for sure.
Well, before we get to the coach, one final question. It was a great run last year, making it to the playoffs. What's it like, the role of the athletic director and getting all the I's dotted and T's crossed, the fans out there, and everything that goes on with the athletic department in the playoffs?
Oh man, that is unbelievable. Just to have that opportunity to to host, and we hosted two rounds last year, and just to be able to rally the community and our alums and our base, and it's pretty special to have that opportunity. And I think what we're probably most proud about is the support that we were able to generate for our student athletes and for our teams. I think my staff did a great job getting the community out, and it's pretty exciting to be a part of hosting home games.
Well, being here in the state of Texas and having lived just down the road from McKinney, I know what a hotbed of football it is in Texas. So we hope to see you in McKinney this coming fall.
Absolutely. That's the goal for us.
Well, Coach, let's talk about your season last year. I mean, 2 years ago, you finished 3-7. You turned it around pretty well last year, eventually only losing to the what would be the eventual national champions.
Yeah, we were pretty blessed. I came in about maybe 19 months ago in December. There had been some struggles as a football program here, but I had a chance to visit with Miss Pate, and I just, like she said before, we just kind of see things the same way about how to develop our student athletes and how to run our program, and so we came in and we changed things. We held guys accountable. They knew that we care about them. We've worked them really hard, and to their credit, they bought in. And to have a turnaround like that, to go from 3 wins to 12 wins with the same young men is pretty remarkable for those guys to do that. Just a complete culture change. Did everything we asked them to do. And obviously a lot of things went right. We had the ball bounce our way some, and we stayed pretty healthy. But we lost that first game with about 12 seconds to go to West Alabama. They scored a touchdown with about 12 seconds to go to beat us 36-32. And from that point on, we won 12 straight games, and our guys just did an amazing job. So now the challenge for us is, can we continue to do that? Can we do it when everybody is picking us to do that? Can we do it when everybody's after us and the bullseye's on our chest? Can we continue to get better, to stay hungry, to have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder and always have something to prove? That's where we are right now. We've got to continue to get better and play our best football.
Well, one of the questions that I've been asking other coaches is there's a big difference between college basketball and college football, as in basketball, you can afford a loss, but typically in football, you cannot afford that early season loss, but you did that. It's almost near impossible to do that and make it to the playoffs. But like you said, you had that 12-game run and you overcame, that loss.
Right. And at the time, we didn't know how good we were, to be honest with you. We're coming off a brand new coaching staff and coming off years where there had been some struggles. So we knew after the first game that we had improved. We knew we were getting better because West Alabama had beaten Lenore Ryan, I think, by 40 points the previous year. So we knew we had, made some ground up there. And we were just hoping to be, have a chance to win every game, have a chance to compete for the conference, title. But it was really a week-to-week thing. Our guys kept believing in what we were doing. We just kept getting better. And when you do that, you kind of put a streak together. We really just started believing in each other and caring about each other. So sometimes when you're starting up something new like that, sometimes it's not a bad thing. Sometimes you lose an early game. It helps you win 2 games, extra games later. But I felt like we learned a lot, and even though I hate losing, a lot of people congratulated me on that loss. And I was like, hey,
right.
Man, don't congratulate us on a loss. But at the same time, I felt like our kids looked at that and went, when we do what we're supposed to do, we have a chance to be pretty good. And from then on, we won games a lot of different ways. We won really close games. We came back and won games. We had big leads and lost the league and then found a way to win. So our guys learned how to, figure out ways to win and really be good when it mattered.
And you only lost to the eventual national champion, so that says a lot about your program last year.
Right, and obviously, we went down to Valdosta State, and we wanted to go down there and do something special. That they were really good. That was the best team in the country last year. It wasn't even close, in my opinion. They had a really good team. So now there's other bars to be raised. We look at them and we got to close the gap to win a national championship. We've got to get better. We got to close the gap between, those last 4 teams in the country and where we are. So we've worked really hard this off season. Our players are doing a great job. I think they really believe in what we're doing. So hopefully we can stay healthy and not turn the ball over and stop people and find ways to continue to be successful.
Well, one of the things you mentioned is now you're going to have that target on your back, and a couple of teams that you play this year received votes in our poll. Most notably, your second game of the year, you're traveling to Virginia Union, so you've got a tough schedule coming up as well.
We do. Play St. Augustine to start the year off, and then we go up to Virginia Union. I think Virginia Union was a playoff team last year. They will be really good. We played a tough non-conference schedule last year as well. This is a great league, and then when you're going out of the league and playing good people, you're trying to play against competition that can make you better. So we'll have a big challenge in front of us. The other teams in our league, Wingate, Carson Newman, and Tusculum, and just this whole league from top to bottom. It'll be a great challenge because people have studied us for a year and been thinking about whipping us a little bit. And so we've got to be able to handle that and do it when we can't sneak up on anybody.
Well, and that's another thing that when I've spoken to some of the coaches across the country, it's when you start getting that level of competition that you're at now, having made it all the way deep in the playoffs. Other teams don't necessarily want to play you in that non-conference schedule. What's that like, and how did that come about?
Well, I guess this year, it probably didn't affect this year a whole lot because this schedule was made, before we had, the good season last year. But in the future, if we continue to have success and play at a high level and be in the playoffs, it will become difficult to schedule. You'll only be, some people just won't play you, but that's okay. I mean, you go out there every Saturday, you try to be the very best you can be, and you don't want to shy away from anything. So I'm sure in the future, hopefully, we'll have that problem. Hopefully, we'll be good enough to where we'll have problems scheduling people, but my fearless athletic director will get it done. I have no doubt in my mind.
We'll talk about real quick the recruiting that you had and the players that you had last year that are coming back. What kind of team you think you have, and what do you look forward to in this upcoming season?
Well, we've got a lot of kids back. I think it's 17 starters back. And notably defensively, Kyle Duggar, our free safety, who is just a tremendous, maybe the best football player in this conference. Tremendous free safety, tremendous kick returner, especially punt returner. I've never had a 220-pound punt returner before. And he is special. He'll be a guy who, if he has a big year, could possibly get drafted. So he kind of anchors that defense, and we've got just a lot of guys back off a defense that was that was very good last year. We caused a lot of turnovers last year. We had a lot of sacks last year. We really did a good job defensively. Sherrod Williams is another one that comes to mind, a will linebacker who is an all-conference player. Up front, Dan Luba is a first-team all-conference returner at the defensive tackle. But top to bottom defensively, I feel like we got a chance to be really, really solid there. Offensively, we just lost a couple guys. We have our quarterback, Grayson Willingham, is back. He broke the school record for touchdown passes and passing yards last year. And he's going to be a junior, and he's really getting comfortable, had a good spring. We really have a running back by committee, several running backs. We really handed the ball to a lot of different guys last year. Really, I think all those guys are back with one. Offensive line-wise, 3 starters back on the offensive line. Jason Poe was our Jacobs Blocking Award winner in the conference. He's our right guard, really special player, was an All-American last year. So we feel like, if we can continue to get better up front offensively and defensively just stay healthy and create some more depth, that we can have a pretty good product on the field. So we're really excited about the guys we have back. They've really had another year under the belt with me and understanding how we do things. And because we're hard on our kids. We hold them accountable, and we have a high expectation, and we push them, but they know we care about them, and they have really bought in and are doing a great job, having a great summer. So it's exciting. These guys report here in a couple weeks, August the 10th, and it'll be fun to get out there and start hitting each other a little bit and see where we are.
Well, Coach, congratulations on last year, and looking forward to this year, and also congratulations on your ranking 10th in the country.
Thank you. It's great talking to you.
With us here on the D2 Sports Football Top 25 Countdown Show is Coach Rich Wright of Northwest Missouri State. And, Coach, congratulations on the preseason ranking of 9th in the country.
Thanks, I appreciate it. The nice thing about preseason polls is they're fun to talk about for the fans, but we got to go out and have another great year, and that's what we plan to do.
I've asked a lot of the coaches about this, and let me start off with this. In college basketball, you can afford an early season loss or two because you've got the tournament and everything. In college football, basically a top program, your playoffs start on the first game because you can ill afford to lose a game early. I mean, you can come back from it, but it does put you behind the 8 ball, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Every week is magnified in college football, and I think that's what, part of the excitement that draws to it. It's no different at the Division I level. You look at college basketball at the Division I level, and everybody kind of gets geared up and amped up for March Madness. But in college football across the country, I don't care if it's week 1 or week 4. There's always those marquee games because everybody knows how much impact that has, on your postseason chances. And particularly the region that we play in. Is so stacked that you're looking for that number 1 regional ranking. You're looking to have that bye in the first round of the playoffs. So each and every week is magnified.
Now, talk about the fact that this is kind of a trend that's happened in Division II football. You took over for a team that won a national championship. The following year, the Texas A&M Commerce wins the national championship, and then a year later their coach leaves, and now Valdosta State has a new coach. So it seems to be a trend if you win the national championship. So if you make it down to McKinney and win, we're hoping this is not your last year at Northwest.
Well, my story is a little bit different. I think there's a fidelity here to Northwest Missouri State. When Coach Doyle left to go to Abilene Christian, we all had the opportunity to go. This is a special place for me. I was a graduate assistant here under Mill Churchwell in 1995 and 1996. I've been back since 2004, so I'm actually starting my 16th season here as a coach at Northwest. 18th season all told. So Northwest and and the Bearcats have a special place in my heart. So I think it would take a pretty good job to get me out of here.
Well, if you got a call from Nick Saban or Bill Belichick, you might actually pick up that phone, right?
I might listen. There's no doubt about that. But it's one of those things that and it's just part of our profession. But there's such a phenomenal culture here. We have a great fan base. We have football is big time here. We have the resources to be successful. And, I get to come to work every day and deal with some of the best kids in the country. And it just makes a good blend of a program. And if you're not always, if the aspiration isn't the level and it's just coaching quality kids and having a chance to compete on the highest level, with regards to the championships, then this is a pretty good fit.
I've asked players this, and friends of mine who have kids that are wanting to go and play college football, and I haven't asked the coach this yet, and maybe I'll get your perspective. I've said, if you've got an opportunity to play at a top Division II school and win a national championship versus, and it's no criticism of a Duke or a smaller Division I school that doesn't have that kind of a tradition, and you get to sit on the bench for 4 years and never see a down of football, wouldn't you rather play? And it seems to be, I'm getting more responses from the kids like, yeah, I just really would like to play, and that's good news for D2 football, I would think.
There's no doubt, and we've kind of made a living on that here. One of the things that we look for is, we're looking for highly intrinsically motivated guys that want to play and want to be on the big stage. And so when we go recruiting, a lot of the kids that we recruit against, aren't necessarily D2 kids. They're, being in the Midwest and being where we're located, we recruit against South Dakota State, North Dakota State. We recruit against, some of the FBS schools. And so if it's a walk-on to one of those places or a gray shirt, we feel like we're in the battle from a recruiting standpoint, and then just with our tradition and the fact that we win football games and get to play on television and do some of those things, that just helps our cause.
Well, obviously, winning a national championship helps your cause, and the school accomplished that with the undefeated season a few years ago. But talk about your recruiting class that you have now and what it was like going through that process this season.
I felt like we had another strong class. One of the things that we look to is we look for a type of a fit, a guy. We're predominantly Midwest driven. Most of our kids, if you look at our roster, come from 5 states. They come from Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, Kansas, and Illinois. You add in a few Wisconsin kids, which we also feel like adheres to that Midwest culture and that Midwest feel, and then sprinkle it with a little bit of Florida, and you've got a roster. And so we're looking for a demographic of a kid. I kind of gave you the intrinsic makeup. We're looking for great student athletes, guys that, can get it done in the classroom, because let's face it, if you're fighting that all the time, your attrition rate goes up. So we want guys that can handle things in the classroom. And also, I feel like it's easy to go out in front of 10,000 people on Saturday and perform at a high level because everybody's watching you. Well, I want to see what you're doing off the field. And so we spend a lot of time looking at those types of kids. And we felt like we did a great job in the state of Missouri last year. We felt like we did a good job in the state of Kansas of getting our kind of kid, blue-collar, tough, Midwest, somebody that's going to grow within our program. And most of our kids are 5-year kids. We recruit a couple transfers here and there, but we hang our hat on high school and developing our kids in our program.
Now, perhaps your school got affected the most with the move because the championship was down the road in Kansas City, and the times you're there, you fill up the park. The movement to the Dallas area and McKinney is going to obviously benefit like Texas A&M Commerce. They're just down the road, and their national program now restored. But did that affect you at all with that kind of move? Or I mean, it's probably a silly question, but do you think it affected you at all?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, was it nice to have 2 games, basically in our backyard for the national championship? Sure it was. In 15 when we won it, we played in basically a home-style crowd with 17 or 18,000 people there. In 16, when we beat North Alabama, we were in a driving snowstorm. So the attendance, interstates were shut down. It was hard to get to the game, so that was a much different atmosphere. But I've been here in 2005, 6, 7, 8. We played for the national championship. 2009, won it. 13, won it. And those were all in Florence, Alabama.
Right.
And so, the nice thing about Bearcat football is if we get to that game, we will have a crowd and we will have a representation, I promise.
Well, that was the past. Let's talk about the future and the upcoming 2019 season. Tell us about the offense and the defense, the players you've got coming back, and what your expectations are for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that's going to benefit us is, well, for the first time since I've been the head coach, I'm actually going to bring my starting quarterback back. We've had to break in 2 brand new starters for the last 2 years. I had a redshirt freshman who had never taken a college snap start for us every game last season, a kid by the name of Braden Wright. He's from Elkhorn, Nebraska. And so to have him back, a year of MIAA and NCAA D2 football under his belt is definitely going to help us. And I think it starts there. His level of comfort through the spring and into the summer has been great. And so we're looking for big things out of him. Feel like we're pretty good up front on the offensive line. We've got several guys that have made, multiple year starters. And so we're kind of back in that same mode. The one guy that we're going to have trouble replacing is our right tackle, Zach Flott. But short of that, we feel like we've upgraded everywhere in the offensive line. I have 2 good tailbacks. One from Kent State, a kid by the name of Justin Rankin, is somebody I think that everybody will want to kind of pay attention to. We got him at Christmas time, and he's going to be a solid player as well as one of our returning starters from last year, Isaiah Strayhorn. So, we're going to feature that multiple attack again. We're going to be able to spread the ball out onto the perimeter, distribute it, but as well try and establish a solid run game. Flip it over on the defensive side, and that's a little bit more my baby. I was a defensive coordinator here. I've been the DC here since 2011. I feel like we've got a really good nucleus of kids back. We didn't graduate a lot. Linebacker was the one spot we got hit with a little bit of attrition, but we've been kind of able to reload there. We've got the front 4 has 3 of the 4 starters back. Moved the kid out. I've got a 6'5", 285-pound defensive end that played inside for me last year, a kid by the name of Sam Roberts, who I'm expecting really big things from. Our 2 starting corners are back, and so feel good there from a coverage standpoint, and so we feel like we have a chance to be pretty good on defense again.
Well, you kick it off on Thursday, September the 5th, and then just in the middle of the season, you get to play down the road in Arrowhead Stadium. What's it like, the atmosphere, and having a D2 football game there? I have to admit, I got a little teary-eyed because my dad's from Kansas City. He was born and raised up there in Kansas City, and I got to see his old place when I went up to the national championship game a couple years ago. But what's that like playing in Arrowhead Stadium?
Well, it's, again, if you look where our recruiting base is from, most kids from the Midwest, there's not a lot of professional teams to choose from. And the Chiefs have obviously been a big pick. And, to have those kids get to go down, I've been blessed to be able to play in that game multiple times against both Pittsburgh State and Central Missouri State. More often than not, it's been against Pitt. But, 2 of the better programs in the MIAA historically, 2 programs of great tradition. To be able to send our kids into Arrowhead Stadium on Friday and do a walkthrough and, to be in the Chiefs locker room and just absorb all of that. And then plus the 2 schools, at least in our league, do the best of drawings. So there will be somewhere between probably anywhere between 18 and 30,000 people at the game. And,
wow.
And it's loud in Arrowhead Stadium. I don't care how many people you put in it. And so it's just it's an exciting venue to play a college football game in. And we're fired up that, the Chiefs have agreed to, open that up and give us the opportunity to showcase Division II football in it once again.
Well, Coach, your program's done a great job of showcasing Division II football. Quite the record, the national championships, and we wish you luck. And McKinney Stadium's a nice place to be in the fall. You don't have to worry about snowstorms in Texas.
I'll tell you what, I would love to be in McKinney, Texas in December.
There you go. We need to send that to the Visitors Bureau. They'd love to hear that. So, Coach, good luck with the upcoming season, and we wish you luck.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
With us now here on D2 Sports Football's Top 25 Preseason Kickoff Special is head coach of Grand Valley State, Mr. Matt Mitchell. And, Coach, we've got you ranked 8th in the country in our poll, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So talk about your program and last season, how that went for you. And
we finished the year 10-2. Regular season loss was to a very good Ferris team, who obviously played for the national championship. We were, also facing the first round of playoffs, a very good Northwest Missouri State team. Credit to Northwest, they beat us at home. Didn't play real well, especially lost some run fits in the second half, which led them, getting a ground game established, but more in the second half. But, for us, we're always striving to try to compete for conference championships and get in the playoffs. And then from there, we're in a very tough region. It's a very difficult region. The GLIAC is very competitive and obviously being matched up with some of the other conferences in our region. But we're just trying to be the best version of Grand Valley we can be year in and year out. It's my heading to my 16th year at Grand Valley, and well aware of the expectations that come with coaching here. But also, we have a lot of optimism as we start to head into 2019. We just finished up a $6 million football center addition and renovation, and so we've got some energy kind of heading into the season because of some of that.
I was going to say, you've got one of the most storied programs in Division II football, and you've got a lot of expectations and a lot of targets on your back, but to put together the season you had last year, I know it didn't end up going to McKinney, but you've always built a good program there at Grand Valley State.
Yeah, we got a lot of great tradition and coaches. Have gone through this program. Obviously, a lot of people, they look back to Brian Kelly and some of the work that he was able to do here to kind of get us on the map in the early 2000s. And then I was fortunate to be a part of a staff when he left with Chuck Martin that able to take over and, maintain some of that success as when I was here as an assistant for him, and away we go. So, yeah, it's been very fortunate, been a part of a good run. And, it's a place that's great to coach at.
What is it like now? I see your non-conference schedule in the past. Some of the coaches I've talked to, as you have that type of a program, other schools don't want to play you in your non-conference. How do you schedule those games?
It's becoming very difficult. We had a number of teams leave the GLIAC, and we were in a good spot for a while because we had a good number of teams in our conference, and so that made scheduling easy. Now with the teams leaving to go to the GMAC, it's made it more difficult. We have I'm going to always try to fight to play 11 games. We put too much time, effort, energy into this endeavor not to play 11. And so now we're at a point with 8 guaranteed games in conference play. We've got to find 3 non-conference. And, geographically it can be difficult. The NSIC is a completely closed schedule. There's no openings there.
Right.
Obviously, you have some schools that just left from the GMAC, so they're not really anxious necessarily to play. We have had a little bit of luck with the GLVC to the south of us, but it creates issues for us just because of geography. We have to fly or pay people to come in. And so, we've done it all. We've flown everywhere. Last year we went down to Mississippi and played Delta State, who was coming off a playoff year. We've got them at home. And then this year we were fortunate to sign a 3-year contract with Edinburgh out of the PSAC. But it's concerning. I'm concerned about the future of our non-conference scheduling for all the teams in the GLIAC. because I think it's very important that you play good competition to bolster your resume. I mean, if you go undefeated, you're going to get in, but there's been plenty of evidence, and I sit on the NCAA Regional Rankings Committee when it comes to the playoffs. There's been plenty of evidence that you start getting into those 9-2s and 8-3s. There's no sure shots, and that's why your strength of schedule becomes important. And so that's why we're always trying to find great non-conference competition, and it has become more difficult here the past few years.
One of the things in talking to the other coaches, it seems like in college basketball, you can afford to have 1 or 2 losses early in a season, but in college football, it's almost like the playoffs start in game 1. You can ill afford. I know there's teams that have come back to it from that, but it puts you behind the 8 ball. Talk about that pressure of playing basically playoff football from game 1.
Yeah, like I said, I think within NCAA Division II, it somewhat could be regional. It could be region by region in terms of your margin for error. With our region, when you look at the MIAA and GLVC and some of these other conferences, there's just not a lot of margin for error. When you look at the track record, very, very, very few teams have got in, with 3 losses, and even the 2-loss teams, it becomes difficult because of where you go. So, I think there's 2 factors when you look at your regular season record. One of the factors being getting in, but the other factor is hosting and even potentially having the bye. Because of the travel that's involved in our region, there's a lot of people who have to take flights to go to games. And
right.
So hosting home field can be critical for success. So consequently, you can pretty much guarantee yourself, a first round, either home game and potentially a bye by running the table. So from that standpoint, you're right. It is pretty much like week 1. You got to do it. I've always argued that Division II football is the most arduous season of any level. Division I FBS, they get a break even before the 4-game semifinal. There's a massive break before the bowl game. There's a break. FCS playoffs, it's easier to get into. You frequently see teams that are barely above 500 are able to get into the FCS playoffs.
Right.
And Division III doesn't play as many games as we do. So when you take a look at 16 straight games potentially to win a national championship at the Division II level with really no margin of error from those 16 games, I think it's a very daunting challenge at the Division II level, and something I'm glad that you're illuminating and people are starting to appreciate.
Well, you talk about how you're on the committee. I have a question for you. There's been situations where teams have been highly ranked in polls, and obviously, we're proud of our poll now starting out and proud of where you've ranked. But the polls don't matter when it comes time, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. When the super regions come out and all those rankings come out, I've seen, teams that are ranked, 4th in the country but 6th in their region. How does that work out?
First of all, to clarify, I'm on the regional ranking committee. I'm not on the national committee.
Okay.
What I do is I'm a part of the process along with some other administrators and coaches to rank the teams in our region, and that passed on to the national committee. Most of the time, the national committee will stick with what each of the 4 regions end up proposing in regards to that. But no, we take a look at every team. There's a lot of different metrics that we take a look at. Where things are at with national polls is not one of the mandated metrics of the NCAA. I think something that's always a little bit difficult too, that can be difficult within Division II is, like the MIAA, which is in our region, they're a completely closed schedule. And same thing with the Great American Conference. And so it becomes difficult sometimes because there's no non-conference games. Everything is completely within the conference.
Right.
So when you're trying to compare 2 different teams from 2 different conferences, there's no common opponent, there's no common denominator, so you have to kind of go based on, the strength of the strength of what you're kind of hearing from coaches and trusting coaches, administrators in those conferences about how good those teams are. But a lot of people talk about strength of schedule. The strength of schedule for all those teams is going to be the same because
right.
They all play each other. It's going to be 500. And so I think that's sometimes the difficulty. We have four conferences in our region. 2 of them play non-conference games and 2 of them don't. And so, how do you factor in strength of schedule for some of those and don't others? So we truly try to look at, for the teams, we try to look at, some of the metrics in terms of the win-loss percentage and the strength of schedule, but we also have some really healthy discussions about quality wins and bad losses, to be honest with you. Like, what are some good wins that those teams had, and maybe what are some losses that are really bad, like looking at some losses to some team, if you lose to a team that's sub 500 at the end of the year.
Right.
So record obviously is important. Record's important, but also who are the wins and who are the losses against. And, I think that's sometimes where, with the poll thing, it can be tricky, because there are some teams that, you might find a team that's 10-1, but their one loss is bad and they really don't have a quality win. Another team that maybe is 9-2,
right,
that's got a couple, really, really good wins, but their two losses aren't that bad. They're other ranked people. So that's where you have to dig a little bit deeper, and you kind of have to take a look at that stuff. And it's obviously a group of people trying to do the best job to get the best selection of teams in the region into the playoff field.
Well, the good news as a coach is if you run the table, you're in the playoffs and you'll be a number one seed. So, and you've got a tough schedule coming up. But before we get to that schedule, talk a little bit about the players that are returning this year from your team last year, both on offense and defense.
Well, we're going to be a little bit more defensive experience and defensive centric. We have multiple all-conference players coming back on the defensive side of the ball at different levels of our defense, and we've got more juniors and seniors on that side of the ball. So up front we've got Mike Pettis, who's a two-time first-team All-GLIAC award winner that's coming back for his senior year. Got an outside couple of linebackers in Isaiah Nkonsa and Tyler Bradfield that are all-conference performers, and some safeties like Jalen Harden and a couple of our corners coming back. So we feel like defensively we have depth and experience. On the other side of the ball, it's not going to be that way. We lost our quarterback who had set, majority of the passing records here at Grand Valley State and Bart Williams.
Right.
We do have a guy we think is going to take over in Cole Katopka that won us a couple games last year when Bart was injured and does have experience and is a little bit older. We've got to continue to build the pieces of the puzzle of guys around him. And we have some depth coming back at running back. We missed Bryce Young Walls last year. He was out, but due to a situation, but he's back. He had a really good season in 2017. We have some young talent, but our young talent is not experienced. And so this is a deal where throughout the course of fall camp and probably early in the season, these guys got to make strides, and they have to continue to grow and develop for us to, compete at a championship level. And I think that's the thing that we've all got to work collectively to get together. But certainly, week one, we're going to have more experience rolling out there against Edinburgh on the defensive side of the ball than we will on offense.
Speak about how in Division II football, as we talk about the upcoming season, but the players obviously, do they get together and kind of have their own kind of scrimmage or practices in the summertime? Are a lot of your kids there up in Michigan? What do they do to prepare for the upcoming season? It's obviously a lot different than, your top Division I football or the NFL.
Yeah, I think every program kind of does it different, but at Grand Valley we have, in our summer term up here, there's 2 6-week terms, the summer one and summer two, and we try to get everybody back for summer two, and we have 85 plus players up here working out right now. So,
okay.
They lift 3 days a week, and then 2 nights a week to get together, do speed development, change of direction, and we do 7-on-7 and some football specific drills. So they're putting a lot into it. There's been a lot of rule changes regarding preseason camps. There's no longer any two-a-days, and also you have to have no physical activity 1 day a week. And I'm not complaining about any of those, but it just puts a little bit more pressure on some of the players to make sure that they're ready heading into a season. It's not possible for them to get in, quote unquote, get in shape or get ready to physically play a season anymore in preseason camp. There's not enough time. So they have to put a lot of work in this. Our guys make a lot of sacrifices, and I think that speaks to our culture of what we do. And we've got guys up here that are working extremely hard and trying to prepare themselves for the 2019 season, and we're not probably unique in that, but it's something that absolutely has to be done for us to have the chance to, like you said, week one is super important. We don't have time to get off to a late start.
Right. Well, and then this year you play at Ferris State, and that's the game before the last game, and then you play Wayne State to finish the season. You've got a tough schedule. You've got some relatively not soft competition, but you definitely have some. They're not the quality of a Ferris State, obviously. Look where they went last year. But talk about your upcoming schedule.
Yeah, so I think it's very unique. Probably, I think the first time since I've been here, we of our 11 contests, 7 of them are at home, and that really had more to do with how the non-conference schedule lined up. So we open with Edinburgh out of the PSAC. Excited to play them. We've never, as a program in the history of Grand Valley, we've never played Edinburgh, and it's been a few years since we played a PSAC school. So look forward to playing those guys. I know that Delta State's record from the previous season was a little down, but I think that had a lot to do with injuries, including an injury that was sustained to their starting quarterback in our game. And but they play in a tough conference, and they always have some really quality athletes. Luckily, we're able to get them at home, and so they're traveling up here to that. Then we start league play. From the standpoint of our conference this year, it's going to be challenging, but as you mentioned, Ferris State has a lot of guys back, including the reigning Harlan Hill Award winner, J. Rue Campbell, and a majority of their defense back, and we play at Ferris. I think Ashland has always been a top-tier program in our league, always very strong on defense. They've got some guys back, and they've got a quarterback that played last year as a freshman and will only get better. And so he's back. And then, there's just a lot of challenges on league. We have 2 trips this year to the Upper Peninsula. We go to Michigan Tech and we go to Northern Michigan. I don't think people understand that those are 10-hour plus road trips.
Wow.
And our longest road trips, we don't leave the state.
Right.
But those are tough places to play. They always have been when you look back at Michigan Tech and Northern Michigan, what they've been able to do. So, and it's we understand it. We had a tough non-conference last year, man. We played some quality competition. We played a playoff Indianapolis team. We went to Delta State. I mean, so it cuts both ways. You want those quality wins, but are you going to have a team that's kind of limping a little bit in the playoffs like we did last year because of your schedule? So we got to do a good job scheduling. I really like our schedule, and there's no better environment, in my opinion. I think our attendance numbers, because we've led the nation in attendance the past 7 years, no better environment than Lover Stadium. So extremely excited to have 7 of our games, at home, and I think that'll be great for our crowd, especially with the younger offense and a group that's got to develop throughout the course of the season. I'm excited that we have a few more home games.
Well, McKinney, Texas is a nice destination in December. I'll tell you that, being from Texas. So, and Coach, we appreciate your time, and we hope we can see you in McKinney come December.
I agree. So do I. I appreciate your involvement and interest in Division II football, too. Thank you.
Okay, with us here on D2 Sports Football is Coach Todd Knight of Ouachita Baptist, and it's a program that's doing very well. Had a successful season last year, making it deep into the playoffs. And Coach Knight, thanks for joining us on our kickoff show.
You bet. Glad to be on. Appreciate the call.
Coach, talk about last season. I mean, it was a very successful season. This program is definitely on the rise. Made it deep into the playoffs. Just talk about what happened last year.
Well, I think, for our team, you got to go back to 2017. We were the Great American Conference champion in 2017, and we went to Ferris State in the first round and it got beat in the fourth quarter on a turnover. And, it really, even though we lost the game in 2017, it just gave us a lot of confidence about playing with some of the best in the country and things like that. So you take it to 2018. We were very fortunate again to win the conference in 2018, and then to make a run and be 12-1 at the end of the year was pretty incredible. But we didn't play as well in that last game, and we're ready to see if we can go deeper and be better. But I think a lot of that success is because we had players that had been there before and guys that understood, how good the competition is and how good it is not only in our conference but across the country, and you've got to be ready every week. And, of course, another factor for us last year was just injuries. We fared pretty well. I mean, we had some injuries, but we didn't have anything that that was earth shattering that would have really made it tough on us in our season. So at this level, I think the way you get through the injury process, that's probably as important as anything. But it was a great year for us, and we're excited about a lot of returners and looking forward to try to make another run.
I say, when you talk about the injury process, one thing that you can't control that, but you can control the depth of your football team and the recruiting. So obviously that if you have injuries and you overcome them, that shows you the depth that you have.
It does. I think what you have to control is your attitude. I mean, it starts with coaches, and when you have injuries, and if you've done a great job in camp trying to get 2s, 3s, and 4s, if you have 4s, which we don't in a lot of places, but if you've got those guys and you've got them ready to play and giving them a chance to compete in early season games or early season practice, you have a lot more confidence. And then naturally, how the head coach, coordinators, and assistant coaches, when you have an injury, you can't dwell on it. You got to move to the next guy and get that guy ready to go and keep that positive energy going. And I think our coaches did a great job with that last year.
So talk about the expectation game. You're building, and as you've mentioned, you've had a couple of great stellar seasons. What does it say when you start this season with the expectations that you could be the team playing in McKinney for that national championship?
Well, I don't know how many teams are playing for it, maybe 168 or something like that in Division II. And, I think anybody has just as great a chance as us. And, we really look at it as a one game season, one game at a time. And we know that, trying to win our conference, that's the biggest challenge. And that's the first thing you have to do. And we also know it's really not where you start, it's where you finish. So, we know there's a lot of work. Everybody wants to talk about McKinney or winning the conference, but really what we've tried to do is focus on what's between, the first day of practice and the last game. And it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of energy that goes into that, from strength and conditioning to the fundamentals of the game. And we know we have a lot of work to do. We were very fortunate last year to be where we were. And, it's an honor for you guys to pick us and things like that, but we realize that's last year's team, and every year it's a new team. So, as far as we're concerned, we're starting from scratch, and we feel like everybody has a chance, and, we know anybody can beat anybody in our league. Our league is extremely tough, and we know that we've got to get prepared for that race first, and that's what's most important to us.
Well, we definitely do want to congratulate you on being named the number 7 team in the preseason poll, but you do say a lot of good things when you say this is now a new season, and you start that season head on against Harding, which is going to be a tough game.
It always is, and they do a great job over there. They've had a lot of success as well, and opening up with a game like that, it's tough for both teams. It's a situation where, if you win that game, you can't feel like you control everything. You got to go back to work, and if something happens, you're not successful in that game, you can't get your head down. You got to come back and go back to work as well. So it's definitely a game that you got to coach hard to be grounded in, and you got to prepare for the season and not just the first game. And we're excited about it. It's a big opener and things like that, but we realize that it's one game.
Now, talk a little bit about that and the fact that, like in college basketball, you can have a loss and it's not going to devastate your season, but you lose that game, you're kind of behind the 8 ball. It's not to say that you can't make the playoffs and you can't have a successful season, but it definitely puts you a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I tell you what, I point to 2 teams. I can't give you the year, but it's been several years ago. Valdosta lost, I don't know, 2 or 3 games early, and somehow got back in that thing and made it into the playoffs and won the national championship. And, that says a lot about them and what they did that year. And they overcame a lot early, and you don't want to put yourself in that situation, but you do have to take it one game at a time, and you got to have that positive energy regardless of what happens. So I point to that, and then I also look at our local high school this year. Our local high school, and I know this wouldn't work in Division II because you can't lose as many games. They lost 4 or 5 games and came back and won the state championship, in 4A football. So, I've seen a lot of teams overcome that, and it's a special group of kids and coaches that are able to do it. And I'm like you, naturally, the best thing to do is win your first game. That's what everybody wants to do. But you've got to be prepared as a coach to coach your players regardless of outcome. And again, positive energy is the key to that.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, Western Florida put themselves in a hole, but they made it all the way to the national championship. They lost to Texas A&M Commerce, but it was kind of a Cinderella run there at the end. But you certainly would rather be in the catbird seat and just go undefeated. But Coach, we appreciate your time. We understand that you're a busy man, and we wanted to again congratulate you on the honor of being 7th in the country in our poll. And we hope we can talk to you throughout the season and kind of get your comments on how you're doing.
You bet. I appreciate it, and looking forward to a great year and a great year in Division II and also in the Great American Conference.
With us is the head coach of the Notre Dame Falcons, Mike Jacobs. And, Coach, you had a very successful season last year. In fact, you played the defending, what's now going to be the defending champions of Valdosta State, and almost made it to that championship game.
That's right. We were very fortunate to have a very strong group of kids last year, with some fantastic senior leadership, and it was new territory for us. We had never won a conference championship. We had never made it to the playoffs. Certainly never made it to the national semifinals. And unless you win the last one, you don't feel great about it. But certainly proud and blessed to have been a part of such an incredible run. And we're excited for what 2019 is going to bring us.
Well, in our poll for 2019, we've got you ranked 6th, so that's a great start to the year. Talk about the team that you had last year as far as what's coming into the season this year, the players, the seniors, the roles, the whole 9 yards.
Certainly, we're excited. We're blessed that we were an awful young football team last year. We had 2 seniors in particular graduate, and Vince Ellis and R.J. Goodwin on defense, and then Austin Trainoff on offense. Those guys are gone, but we're certainly the leaders of that program last year. But coming back, we're very blessed. We have the nation's leading rusher in Jaleel McLaughlin, who's a first-team All-American last year. Offensively, we have a young quarterback in Chris Bram, who was only a redshirt freshman last year. We have a senior, Marvell Ross, who I think is as talented as anybody in the country at the wide receiver and at the returner position. And then we're led up front by Brandon Nicholson and Jimmy Burchett offensively. Defensively, coming back, again, it kind of starts up front for us. Shahan Williams was an All-American last year. He'll be back. He had, I think, 21 and a half sacks last season, and he's had a really fantastic offseason for us. We're really looking forward to, with the graduation of R.J. Goodwin, that Guam Lee kind of takes over that middle of the field role for us, as well as Curtis Collins, a senior, who will be a 2-time captain. And then, we'll get a bunch of guys that play for us in the back half, Jeff Thomas and Sed Lynch at corner, and certainly senior Trey Slater at safety. So we've got a bunch coming back. We're excited about our freshman class. We think it's going to add a bunch of depth to that group, and we're looking forward to it.
So talk about those, kind of the expectation game. I mean, your first season, you did something that had not been accomplished, and you mentioned earlier the university had done something, the football team, the Falcons, last season they had accomplished things that had not been accomplished before. Talk about that expectation game coming into this season.
Sure. I think everybody has raised their level of what we're capable of, being a newer program. And, this will only be the 11th year that we've had college football. It's kind of unique that a lot of people don't realize, but for over 80 years, our institution was an all-girls school. So from 1922 to 2001, we were all girls. We started football program in 2008, and to see where it's at now, and to have some of these preseason accolades again, which the preseason stuff's great. It's as much of a testament to what the 2018 team accomplished, but we're excited that people expect us to do great things this year.
What's it like? I was talking to one of the athletic directors, and for coaches, I mean, it's almost like every game's a playoff game, because when you have such a good squad and there are those expectations, you just cannot afford to lose one game. Where in college basketball, that's not going to hurt you, but in college football, that could be devastating.
Absolutely. And, especially you just look at the history of the Region 1, the Super Region 1, which we're in, and certainly our conference. We know that every game we're only guaranteed 11 opportunities this year. We feel like, I feel like the Mountain East certainly deserves a little more credit than sometimes we get on the national level. Preseason 1, Super Region 1 winner has come out of the Mountain East, I think, 5 out of the last 6 seasons. And, this is a conference that deserves 2 playoff teams. And, but with that very small margin of error, you have to approach each and every week like you're in a playoff. And it's tough. It's tough to get kids, motivated and prepared. And, they have to come out and they have to understand now that, we're not going to sneak up with anybody. We're certainly going to be the ones with the targets on our back. And we're going to have to play really solid, good, fundamental football for 11 weeks in the regular season if we want to have a chance at some of our bigger goals.
One final question. How was the recruiting that you had, the haul that you got, and how's that going to help you in the future? Do you feel like it was a great recruiting class?
Absolutely. One of the unique things with Division II and, with the playoff run, you get out on the road a little bit later than you normally would. Now, we start things and try to function as much like a Division I program as possible, but we're excited about the young men in our freshman class. We think that we've added a significant amount of depth. And for us, it's just we're attracting better students. We're attracting more kids who are captains their senior year, more kids who are on state playoff teams, more kids that were state champions. And when you get those types of individuals coming out of high school, they have a high expectation of being a winner, and a lot of times that carries over into the success in college. So we think they're going to add fantastic depth. I can't tell you until I see them on campus and watch them run around a little bit who's going to help us this year, but we certainly think that there's going to be some guys that are going to come in and play for us.
Well, I fibbed. I thought of one last question. You talk about elevating. Obviously, you're going to be looked at by a lot of other higher-up programs that might have some coaching vacancies because of the level of success you've had at Notre Dame, Coach Jacobs. Does that ever play into your mind? I mean, as a coach, I know it's probably a weird question, but it's just a thought about that.
No, I think everybody thinks about their career and their longevity. Football's a little unique than some other things. What I can say is that I have a fantastic job at Notre Dame College. I'm very proud of what we've built here, and the fact that this was a young program, and we didn't take a cookie cutter that was ready to win. We've built this thing from the ground up, and we've done it with the recruitment of high school players and a very few transfers, and it'll take something really special for me not to be at Notre Dame College for a really long time. And again, that's just part of our business. People talk about that, and I'm not going to shy away or anything like that, but I'm fortunate for the job we have. I love the coaching staff that I have. I love the players that we have, and you got to be where your feet are, and we're going to work to make this thing the best we can make it.
Well, Coach Jacobs, obviously the results are there. Congratulations on being number 6, and good luck to the Falcons in the upcoming season.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys having us on, and we appreciate the preseason accolades, and look forward to a fantastic 2019 season.
Okay, joining us now on the D2 Sports.Football Top 25 Preseason Poll is the Athletic Director for Texas A&M Commerce, Mr. Tim McMurray. And Tim, want to let you know that Texas A&M Commerce has finished fifth in our preseason poll. So congratulations on that.
Very exciting news. Preseason polls certainly give you goals and things to shoot for, and certainly happy about to hear that, because that's a testament to what our institution and the culture that our football program has built under Colby Carthel, and certainly expect that to continue under David Bailiff. And also very interested in hoping we're about 4 spots higher in the December poll. So, but it should be a great 2019 season.
Well, you've got someone you know very well sitting right on top of you at Tarleton State. They came in at 4th, and you guys battled it out twice last year. And talk about that 2018 season.
Yeah, certainly tremendous respect for what Tarleton State's done. Anytime coming off of our magical run in 2017, you certainly expect to have a target on your back, and we did, because with us and Tarleton Midwestern State, certainly the finishing among the top 3 here the last couple of years, we knew it was going to be difficult. We knew Tarleton was nipping on us, and everybody had the A&M Commerce game circled on their schedule, and so credit to what they did last season. We had a tremendous battle at our place for 3.5 quarters, and really let one slip away. And then in the playoffs, it was very competitive first half. Tarleton came out and got after us pretty good in the third quarter, and then we fought back and almost fought all the way back. So I fully expect, would relish that opportunity for us to play twice again, because I think it's great for college football. And certainly, as your poll dictates out, it's not just 2 conference rivals, it's 2 nationally relevant programs now.
Well, talk about the experience that you've built in Commerce. It's, as you call it, a best in class, and it seems like it really has met that expectation.
It's a global mission, and it takes a village, and it really does. I uttered best in class as an aspirant goal at my press conference in 2015, but it's really become our mission. I came in and, we had won one conference championship in football, and we were on the uptick in several other sports. And so it was my job, and my predecessor, Ryan Ivey, who hired Colby Carthel, it was my job to come in and, to use a track metaphor, take the baton off of the momentum in the race that they were already running, and to really elevate it. And so what we did, I try to ask our head coaches, and Coach Bailiff and I were recently talking about this. I try to be an AD that asks a coach not only what do you need, but what do you want? Because we got two daughters that are out of the house now, and almost out of the house. One of them's still a teenager, and we have a discussion all the time about what we need and what we want, because it's 2 very different things, and it's no different in college athletics. And so with our coaches, my mission and mindset is to not only give them what they need, but also what they want, because chances are most of the time what they want is a resource or an opportunity that's going to help them compete on a national level. And thankfully we've made, great strides. We may never have another year like we just finished in 2018 with 11 teams in postseason play, but I've spent a lot of time this spring and summer not just thinking about that and resting on the past, but what do we do to get cross country and soccer and make it 14 for 14? And what do we do to make sure football goes past the second weekend of the playoffs? And what do we do to get men's and women's basketball not just to the NCAA tournament, but into the Elite Eight, and then taking those next steps? And the thing I enjoy about being the AD at Texas A&M Commerce and being a steward of that best-in-class mission is I can look at every recruit. I meet with a soccer recruit this afternoon. I've got a couple more this weekend, and I like the fact that I can look every parent, student, athlete in the eye when they come in on this campus and say, you're being brought here because of the standard that you can not only help us continue our success and win a conference championship, but in your 4 years, we can very realistically tell you could help us compete for a national championship, because every sport has competed at that NCAA regional level now. That women's golf and women's basketball have returned to regional play, and women's golf for the first time last year. Soccer's certainly done it in the past. So anytime you've been to that regional level, that's only one step away from playing for a national championship. So that's what I think is our secret sauce here right now, is that we have built it the right way with the right kids. The success we're having in the Thrower Center is a direct correlation, because we're recruiting the right kind of kid. We're helping the right kind of kid foster a best-in-class academic experience. And I just find that, you don't win national championships with a team GPA of 2.0. You have to have the right kids, because if you can't trust them in the classroom or on a test, chances are you can't trust them on third down or in the fifth set of a match.
Well, talk about the transition you had to go through as the athletic director. You had a very successful run with Coach Colby Carthel, obviously a year removed from the national championship, but then make it back the year after that. But now you have to kind of go in a little bit of a different direction with a new coach. What was that search like? How did that come about?
Yeah, the search was, did the John Wooden. I was quick, but I didn't hurry. As you and I talked about before, every good AD or every AD worth his salt has a good short list of coaches they'd be interested in. Now, most of those lists are in pencil or on an Excel spreadsheet, because you have to edit them a lot, because you never know during a coaching search who's going to be interested, who's going to maybe be interested but get another opportunity, who's going to get their situation improved at their current school. And very, very thankful that the only time I added to my short list during that week or so that we were hard at it in the search, the only time I added to the short list in terms of not having to take somebody off is because somebody came on that I was pleasantly surprised had an interest. So between you reaching out and some others reaching out to me, a lot of communication, a lot of early phone calls, late night phone calls. I definitely did a lot of planes and automobiles. I don't think I got on a train at any point, but it was a lot of hard work. But Dave and I, we knew each other. We weren't, it wasn't like I hired my best friend, but I hired somebody that I had a tremendous amount of respect for, that I'd worked together with 14 years ago. And really, Dwayne, what it came down to when we met just north of Houston during what I call the coaching recruiting process, when we had an initial meeting just north of Houston, I just had to look him in the eye and see that, the head coach I knew 15 years ago at Texas State had that same passion, fire, and energy, and it's burning as bright as it ever has. And he's come in and really embraced this team. He's come in and embraced this institution. He's embraced this community. His wife, Angie, just got here a couple of weeks ago. They got their household in Houston, so he's all in on Commerce, and it's been a joy to watch this spring, because tremendous amount of respect for Colby Carthel and what he did here, because what Colby did in changing a football culture, helping change our institutional culture and mindset, Colby Carthel made this football job what it was to attract. Now coming to work for Tim McMurray, it was about wanting to be the head coach in Commerce, and line football was when Colby Carthel was hired. Line football wasn't relevant, and now you're not coming off of 3 years of 5-27. You're coming off of 3 straight 10-win seasons and 4 straight NCAA postseason appearances, and that's we're one of only 2 programs besides Northwest Missouri to have that. Or I'm sorry, Ferris right now to have that, and that means a lot. And David saw that opportunity. He's come in. He's hired an incredible coaching staff. They're outstanding leaders of men. They're outstanding teachers of men, and they've been a great asset coming into our department.
Well, and he had a pretty good first recruiting class, it looks like.
He did, and it's the old cliche, everybody's undefeated on signing day, but we really added what we had. We had some mid-year transfers and did a great job of holding on to those. And then with David's relationships in the Texas high school ranks, we very quickly David didn't have to introduce himself to most staffs when he got there because they knew David Bayless, they respected David Bayless, and so we made up a lot of lost ground there in January and early February. And some guys that were on the fringe about commerce, they locked in once Coach got in their living room, and then when we got them on campus there, obviously every weekend in January, we're hosting group recruiting and really put together a great group of young men, and we managed it well. We drew some fences around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We got some kids out of Houston, certainly made some inroads in East Texas, and then even right here, in our local footprint, added some kids from Paris, and so, yeah, the recruiting pipeline, you're always playing catch up when you take a job in December, but I was most pleased with how quickly we assembled the staff and how quickly we attacked the high schools and the junior college transfer market in January. And the unique thing about recruiting is still going on. We've added a couple of late junior college commitments this past week, and that's a great testimony to the fact that recruiting is never done. You're always trying to add depth and build depth, and just very, very pleased with the job that they've done this spring to really, we have a very stacked upper class, especially juniors and seniors, and then so now penetrating where you can actually redshirt some difference makers. People don't remember Luis Perez came here and redshirted as a sophomore junior college transfer. And so you never know when we might be redshirting a kid, not because he's not good enough, but because one more year of development could put him in a top spot on the depth chart. So I think David and his staff are really doing a good job of putting that mindset together, and it's, as you said, it's definitely impacted his first recruiting class.
Well, speaking of Coach Bailiff, that's who we've got on the line now. And Tim, congratulations on that ranking. And Coach, wanted to let you know that you're 5th in the country.
Tell you, I'm the first-year head coach here, so it's nice to be ranked, but it's also something that we're going to have to earn throughout the season. The conference we're in is an unbelievably competitive conference, and I believe, just looking at the film, there's going to be great parity in it, and you're going to have to be ready week in and week out to try to make a run at the championship. It's a strong region, and I think we're a talented football team, but we sure have a lot of work to do, but we're looking forward to competing every week.
What was that like, knowing that you're coming into a brand new conference and having to really prepare, unlike before when you've had maybe a couple years under the belt, the little tendencies that might happen. So tell us about that.
Well, it is. You watch all the video, but you really don't get a feel. And I've known several coaches in this conference for a number of years, and I know they're top-notch coaches. That have done fantastic jobs. That was important to me when we put a staff together, though, that I did hire somebody that had been in the conference that hopefully could teach us a little bit, about our opponents in conference each week. So I think I've got a good coaching staff that way, and I have one that has been in the Lone Star Conference, and hopefully that's going to give us, a little more knowledge than we'd have had without him.
Well, your experience, you've got a lot of experience, obviously, in coaching. And as you mentioned, you know some of these coaches in this league. First of all, again, congratulations on the ranking of 5th in the country. But what's it like getting to know the players that have been in this program? And you obviously kind of have a target on your back because of the success of your predecessor. So what's it been like getting to know the players?
Well, I'll tell you what, too, speaking of Colby Carthel, he did a great job here. There's a lot of talent here, and he's won 10 games 3 years in a row. And that's the expectation here. And it's the expectation of our players, that we're competing for conference championships and for national championships. And you better get out of bed every morning and understand what the expectations are in Commerce, Texas. The players, they are hardworking guys. They understand that working hard works, and there's no shortcuts to success. A lot of them have committed to being here in the summer, and they've been working out all summer. And that's the culture that I inherited. It's a great culture. Like I said, a bunch of good, hardworking young men here.
What are your personal expectations then, your first year in Commerce?
Well, my expectations, it's the same everywhere. Your goal really as a football coach is you can have those big goals, but you also want to make it just the 1-0 every week. That's got to be our first goal, is to be 1-0 every week, and hope you don't stumble. But if you just talk about the ultimate goals and you mess up along the way, a lot of times that'll hurt the confidence and the swagger of your football team. So we're just going to work hard week in, week out, and do our best, and see who wins at the end of the game.
We're going to have a little bit of an international flair in that first home game, playing a team from Mexico. How did that come about?
How cool is that? We're really excited about having an international game. We had Tim McMurray, their director of athletics, had been trying very hard to schedule a football game, and just kept getting no's. We couldn't get it worked out, and had a coach on staff here that we were sitting around talking one day, and he said, "What if I try to find that Mexican team from Mexico that comes to the States every now and then?" He tracked down a contact in El Paso, and then we got Tim in touch with them, and they're rolling into town September 7th, and we're really looking forward to playing. I think it'll be fantastic. Be a great experience.
Now, since obviously they're not American football, we don't know, Division II, Division III, NAIA. Where would they stack up in American college football, you think?
Well, I know what they're doing is the university is an all-star team, so they're all college students, but they just play at that for that one university. And when I'm talking to some coaches that have played them in the past, they say they are tough, and they are tough guys, and they'll come here trying to win a football game. Apparently, they're very well coached, and or take this game very seriously back home, and want to try to be as good as they can be. So, I think we're going to have our work cut out for us.
And then obviously you've got Tarleton State, which in our poll ranked 4th in the country. You've got Midwestern State, and then you also travel to Pueblo, another nationally ranked team. So you've got a tough schedule to start out.
Yeah, we do, but you wouldn't want it any other way. I'm glad we found that 11th football game with this new staff. We've got a lot of work to do ourselves. Having mock games, and to get that game to be able to rehearse before we hit the Tarleton and the Pueblos and the Midwesterns, that's important for us too, where we have our communication and processes down on our sidelines. So, once again, that's why you're playing these tougher people. And that's why you just, need to ultimately be 1-0 each week and see how many we can stack up.
And it's a rare opportunity I know that there was the change, and Coach Carthel went on to Stephen F. Austin, so it's rare that you have such a program like this that has that kind of change. But so it's a rare opportunity to ask the question, what was that like talking to the recruits that had maybe decided in the past that was like they wanted to come play for Coach Carthel, but you had, 50, 55 kids signed up, so obviously the recruiting class went very well.
Yeah, it went well, and you know what? We kept anybody that Coach Carthel had offered and committed, we kept our word to them. I thought that was very important, just because there's a coaching change, that these young men understand their word was good to Texas A&M Commerce, and it's good to me. So we retained, I think, almost all everybody that had committed to him, and went out and we found some other great players.
Well, Coach, congratulations on taking over the reins at Texas A&M Commerce, and again, congratulations on the ranking, and we look forward to seeing what you do this season, and have a great season.
Thank you, sir. Call me at any time I can help.
With us now at D2 Football is the head coach of the Tarleton Texans. He's a coach that has a long history with the university. He's winning as coach at Tarleton State. And with us is Todd Whitten, coach of the Texans. And, Coach, welcome to D2 Football's the Top 25 Poll Announcement Show.
Thank you very much. It's sure good to be here.
Well, Coach, talk about, first of all, last season. It was a very historic season for the Texans.
Yeah, that's right. It was the best season I think that we've ever had. So our players had a lot of fun. Coaches, our fans. It was just a big year. We won 12 games, 12 in a row actually, and we got knocked out in the third round of the playoffs by Minnesota State. So we've got a good many kids coming back. So expectations are high, and I think if a few things fall into place, we have a chance to be pretty good again.
Well, in our poll that gets announced today, you finished fourth in the country in our poll. So the top 4 seed, there's a lot of expectations. Who's coming back on your squad from last year, and how do you meet those expectations of building on what you did last year?
Well, we've got a good many kids on offense. We've got a 1,000-yard receiver in Zamari Manning coming back. We've got an 1,100-yard rusher and Daniel McCants coming back. We've got all-conference tight end. Our center is going to be a 4-year starter. So we've got just an awful lot of folks there. We did graduate 4 seniors on our offensive line. So I would say on the offensive side, that's the kind of our main focus as far as getting some new guys plugged in. On the defensive side of the ball, we've got 3 all-conference returners in the secondary. So, arguably maybe one of the top secondaries in the country. And then we've got a starting inside linebacker coming back, a couple of starting guys across our front. And so we've got a lot of good football players coming back. A few holes to fill, but, if we can stay healthy, and that's really the key in Division II because you never have very much depth with 36 scholarships. So if we can stay healthy, and I think we'll have a chance.
Now, talk about your season upcoming. You play in a very tough, very difficult Lone Star Conference. You've got Texas A&M Commerce you face. You've got Midwestern State. Both of those squads, Midwestern barely missing the playoffs last year, but Texas A&M Commerce, they won the national championship 2 years ago. So talk about just playing in and what it's like playing in the Lone Star Conference.
Well, it's a tough league, and there's a lot of parity. One of the things that I'm the most proud of, a year ago, our football team went on the road and beat Commerce. They were the defending national champions, and then 2 weeks later we went on the road and beat Midwestern and finished out a regular Lone Star Conference season undefeated. So to be able to do that, and then we also beat Commerce again in the playoffs. So we beat those guys twice, and both times they were highly ranked. So I thought that we played a tough schedule, and we also handled that schedule pretty well. So and to finish 12-1, we lost to Minnesota State the last game of the year in a snowstorm, and so we were on the road up in Minnesota and just didn't quite play well enough. We have to give Minnesota State credit, but one would think that their kids would be a little better at playing in the snow than ours, and I think that proved to be true.
Well, you don't have to worry about a lot of snow in Texas, that's for sure. But Coach Whitten, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time. We know you've got a lot going on, and good luck in this upcoming football season.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the call.
With us now is Coach Todd Hoffner of Minnesota State, and Minnesota State finished third in our rankings for D2Sports.football. And Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dwayne. It's my pleasure to be on, and thanks for being number 3.
Well, congratulations on that. You had a wonderful season last year, made it all the way to the top 4. Talk about last season real quick and how that went for you.
Well, I thought we had a really good year, and coming off of a 13-1 season the previous year and making it to the quarterfinals, I thought was definitely a marked improvement from the previous year when we were 8-3. So, going 13-1 2 years in a row, which we did in 2018, it was making it to the semifinals was definitely a nice step, and that was our goal, is to be better than the year before. And even though we had the same record, we advanced one round further.
Now, I will say real quick, that had to be a very interesting playoff game in the snow that you had.
Yeah, Carleton State from Texas, and very gifted, very talented football team, definitely did very well in the first half. It was 10-0, and we had turned the ball over a little bit in the first half, and the second half we did much better with the football. We ended up winning the game 13-10 in about 4 or 5 inches of snow by the time it was all said and done, and we set an NCAA record, actually an all football record of 27 plays and 9 first downs, and scoring a touchdown on 4th and 5. So it was definitely one of the longest drives in the history of, or the longest drive in the history of all levels of football. And we were fortunate enough to cash in, and that was the turning point of the game. It was 10-7 at that point, and then we gained a turnover, and then we took it down and scored again, and that's all I wrote.
Did it help you a little bit, just real quick, to play that game when you put in the previous year faced 2 teams from the Lone Star Conference? Did that help you at all, having film like that and having a little bit of a knowledge of the Lone Star Conference?
Well, we're 2-1 against the Lone Star now in the last 2 years, so we've had some success against them. And the game that we lost to the eventual champion, Texas A&M Commerce, at our place, I believe the game was tied with about 10, 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So I think we can go toe-to-toe with those guys. We've been fortunate to play them up here at Minnesota State, and we definitely have been worthy of the rankings that we got, and we've done well in the playoffs and won football games when we were supposed to, and we competed against teams that have 36 scholarships, and we're just not quite there yet, but we're definitely doing a lot of positive things, and I know we have gifted and talented players, and our coaches are doing a fantastic job.
I was say, you've done very well in your 9 seasons at Minnesota State. Well, let's talk about, speaking of 2019, what's your team like coming off of last year, your returning starters? How does the team look?
Well, we lost 6 guys to graduation, and it was a small senior class, but a very productive and talent-ridden group. So I think it was, definitely an impressive outing, having that many underclassmen do so well. But, I've been in this game long enough. I've been a football coach for 30 years at the college level, and you see everything, and I've seen senior classes that are expected to do a lot, don't live up to expectations. So I've been there, done that, and I don't want to go there again. So I think it's really hard when you're everybody's Super Bowl, and you have to play a great football game to win every football game. And that'll be quite a challenge for a senior-ridden group. I have 17 seniors this year, and over 20 juniors, so we have a very large conglomerate of mature, talented, and experienced players, and we've been working on trying to fill some of our voids and, help the team put ourselves in a position to hopefully take that next step and advance all the way to round 6, which is impossible. You'd have to win the national championship to do it, but we like to talk about round 6 instead of just getting to the national championship, which we did in 2014.
Well, you've had a great run as the coach at Minnesota State, and so definitely the national championship is in your grasp. So we wish you luck. Congratulations on the ranking, and have a great season, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.
And now joining us is the athletic director at Minnesota State, Mr. Kevin Beisman. And Kevin, talk about what your role in the past has been in actually helping to pick the teams that make it into the Division II national playoffs.
Well, it's hard to believe it's almost a decade in the rearview mirror, but that was great experience working with a a number of outstanding colleagues around the country, and it was just a real blessing and an opportunity to be able to run that operation and be the chair of a very prestigious Division II committee, and just overall a great experience.
Talk about how the rankings work, because I know there have been teams in the past that have been nationally ranked pretty high, but then subsequently in their super regions they're not quite ranked as high, and there's been some conflict or controversy. How does that work with the committee?
Well, it's all criteria based, and those criteria have continued to evolve since my time on the football committee. But I think probably from a fan education standpoint, the one thing that is worthy of being clarified right away is that the various national polls that are supported by media outlets like your own really don't influence the criteria based decisions that the NCAA is making. But I would say over time, the two most influential criteria are, that one-loss percentage and the strength of schedule.
Okay. So, and that's the difference between what I love about football is, in essence, every week is a playoff game, because unlike basketball, you can't afford to lose a game. It's going to really hurt your system. But you've been athletic director at Minnesota State, and you've overseen an athletic program with your football team that's been very successful. So, you've been to the playoffs multiple times, and talk about just that experience of building a program.
Well, I mean, it's when you oversee 20 sports and you're asked what's your favorite one, that the pat answer needs to be all of them.
Right.
But football's in my blood. I played football at Northern Iowa. It's in my background. As evidenced by my service at the national level to the Division II football committee, and as you've alluded to, that was an important experience as far as being able to see it up close and in person. What the best programs in the country were doing in terms of getting their teams into the postseason on a consistent basis, and then advancing them beyond the playoffs and into the championship rounds. And so it was a great opportunity for observation and to sort of set the direction for our own program and understanding, what it was going to take to establish a consistently successful program, and we've been fortunate, over the last decade or so to be one of those top programs in Division II, and we're certainly looking forward to the upcoming season.
Now, obviously, as an athletic director, you had a little bit of a challenge, and I know, and I want you to talk about that. How once the playoffs start, while you're the host site, the NCAA takes over everything. You obviously face some challenges when you have a blinding snowstorm last year.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, the NCAA, will remind you that it's not your home game anymore. It's their championship, and you have to sort of commit to sort of this sense of neutrality and those types of things, all within the context of your fans are used to what they are used to, throughout the regular season in terms of game promotions and those types of things. But yeah, that was one for the ages last year when we hosted Tarleton, and we were getting prepared for weather. It was in the forecast, and we had a chance to gear up for it in advance and had some plans in place that we hoped we never had to execute, and everything was looking good through the first half, and then all of a sudden, the snow started and was unrelenting, through halftime and throughout the second half, and we did the best that we could to keep the lines cleared and keep the snow off the field and allow for the best run of play possible, and the officials did a nice job sort of working with our staff and executing our snow removal plan. But it was one I won't forget for a long, long time.
I was going to say that the boys from Texas probably wasn't used to such a snowstorm, and we did talk about how the home, the NCAA comes in and you've got to be just the host site, but by gosh, you had some pretty good home field advantage with that snow.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, there had been quite a debate, all week, and I think, certainly the the fans up here felt, weather could work to our advantage, and there was some good banter going back and forth on the on the message boards and the fan boards about some of the weather conditions that the team from Texas had played in, and it was ironic. I've never seen people cheer snow because when they've got to go blow it off their driveways and remove it from their sidewalks, they're usually not cheering about it. But it was one of those things when it started to fall during halftime. The home fans were pretty excited about it.
Well, that's the past. The future is, want to congratulate Minnesota State achieving the third ranking in our poll. You obviously have high expectations, having been in the top 4 last year, very close to a national championship game and consistent playoff success. What's it going to take for Minnesota State to get to that championship game and host that trophy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always talk about that tipping point. What is the thing that gets you, over the edge a little bit, and we're always looking, at how we, not resting on our laurels, but how we can build on that success. And this, I think, is a team that everybody's been aiming sort of for this fall season as maybe the one, and We've got a fantastic home schedule. I think it's going to be one, that is going to energize, the Maverick faithful, and we've got Augustana at home, evening game to open it up. Some traditional rivals like Winona State coming in, and Minnesota Duluth in a divisional crossover game for homecoming. I can't recall a better home schedule in maybe the last decade. And, I think everything is sort of aligning that this could be, a very, very exciting season where the Mavericks are poised to make a deep run, and I think, we've got good talent in the program, and I think, a little bit of some of it is having good luck and staying free of injury, and I think the other thing that has really driven the success is the continuity that we've had. Successful programs, sometimes you lose coaches. We were very fortunate not to experience any turnover, and so I think everything is poised and aligning for a very exciting season of football ahead.
Well, with us is Kevin Beisman, and Mr. Beisman, we appreciate your time. I know you've got a lot of commitments going on. You're getting ready for that football season, and this is kind of the off season. But and congratulations on your ranking, and good luck for this upcoming football season and everything that at Minnesota State Athletics.
Well, we really appreciate that, and we want to express our gratitude for everything that you do to promote Division II football.
With us now is the head coach of Ferris State, Coach Anise, and welcome to the show. And this is our top 25 announcement show, and Ferris State finished number 2 in our poll. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So talk about, obviously, Ferris State is one of the top programs in Division II football. Last year you had a phenomenal season. Fortunately came up short in the national championship game in McKinney, but you've built quite a program at Ferris State.
Yeah, we're very proud of what our young men have been able to accomplish, and we've really stabilized the program. In the last 5 years we've been in the playoffs. In the last 3, we've been at least to the quarterfinal round. So proud of what we've done and looking to continue to be successful this year.
Well, last year, describe what it's like to be on that 15-0 run that you had.
Well, you really don't think about it. It's
right.
It's quite the grind when you're playing 16 games in a year, and so they all these FBS experts say, well, we can't make college football players play 16 games, but you can. So that's always interesting, but. It was a big challenge, but you just stay focused in the process, and we finished the regular season 11-0 and won a couple really close games, which you got to do. A regular season, tough challenges that you were going to face, and got to win those tough ones. And then once you start the playoffs, we had an extraordinarily tough opponent that we opened the playoffs with in Harding. They beat us the year before, and we narrowly beat them. And then we had Northwest Missouri State come to our place, and they're a powerhouse, and we beat them. And then we went to play Ouachita Baptist, who was the number one seed in our region, and won, and then had to go to Minnesota State Mankato and won that one, and then on to McKinney and played a great Valdosta team and narrowly lost to them. So it was unbelievable. Our kids, just were prepared every week to be at their best, and it was quite a ride.
What's it like having that target on your back as one of the top programs in Division II football?
Well, you just got to put it in perspective. First off, you just got to do the things you need to do every day to be at your best. It starts with, understanding the process and having the right attitude to just, focus on the development of each individual. Each individuals need to come to the season with, the best version of themselves, and then, just not getting ahead of yourself. People talk about all the time. They've asked me, well, how are you going to repeat last year? And, that just doesn't even come across my mind. I just want to be the best we can be every day. And then when we get to, that tough first game that we have with Findlay, that, we just take care of business, and then we worry about the things that come our way when they do come our way, instead of getting ahead of ourselves. And that'll be the key to our success again this year.
And you've got a tough non-conference game traveling up to Washington versus Central Washington in your second game. How did that come about?
Well, we only had 9 games, quite honestly, and you can't be playoff eligible with 9 games, and so we were. It's expensive, but they're coming back to us the next year, and so we were fortunate to have, an opportunity to play that 10th game, which, is again, it requires a commitment from our university to be willing to pay for a trip like that. But it's the challenge of getting games. When you end up getting better and better, people don't want to play, and so that's been a challenge for us.
That's something I've heard from multiple coaches. As you have a top-notch program, it's difficult for you to find the non-com games because they don't want to play such a talented program.
Yeah, we're in a tough situation here because the GLIAC, we used to, have 15 teams in our league, and then a lot of them broke off and went to the GMAC. And so, here in the Midwest, we look around and the Minnesota schools have a full 11-game, schedule, so that, they got a closed schedule. The MIAA has a closed schedule. The GAC there in Arkansas and Oklahoma in that space, they have a closed schedule, and so we don't have a lot of options. We can go to the Lone Star, or bounce around in a couple of different spots, but not a lot of options. So it's been really challenging for us to fill our schedule.
Well, speaking of your schedule, obviously one of the ones that everybody's going to look at is your game against Grand Valley State, and that's the last game of the year. Would you have preferred to have had them earlier in the schedule? Does that make any difference to you?
No, it doesn't make a difference at all. Our attitude is, we'll play home, we'll play away, we'll play in cold, we'll play in hot. It doesn't matter. We'll play in large stadiums, small stadiums. Our guys are focused on just, being the best we can be, focused on Ferris State. So, you mentioned Grand Valley. Obviously, they'll be the least of our concerns till it becomes Grand Valley week. And that's just the way we've approached things. People make big deals out of things like, you got to go play at Lever Stadium, and our guys have embraced that. We've beaten them there 4 of the last 5 times we've been there, and so that's just the process we have. that's the mental discipline that our players play with, and so we're not going to think about that until the time arrives.
Right.
And if it's week 10, it's week 10, and who cares? It's just an opportunity to play another great program.
Well, speaking of the players, talk about those that are coming back to the team this year, the recruiting that you had, what you look for in your squad offensively and defensively.
Well, defensively, we have 9 starters back, and so we expect to be better on that side of the ball. We were stout as a run defense, but obviously we gave up some big pass plays, and so we need to get better on the back end, but we've got some experience now. 2 years ago in 2017, we graduated 15 seniors off of our defense alone. And so coming back in 2018, it really was, our point of, inexperience. And so, now, 9 of those kids, on that side of the ball started, and a lot of them played as backups there. So we feel confident about, our experience on that side of the ball. On offense, the strength of our team's been our offensive line. We've been able to run the ball very effectively against very good defenses. So we just, that's our philosophy, and we build it behind that. Our quarterbacks have been, great dual threat guys. We got 2 seniors returning at quarterback, so we feel good about that position. And our leading rushers back and leading receivers back. So, we've got a lot of talented players who, are very competitive and determined to be their best. And so we're excited about this year.
Well, having lived just down the road from McKinney Stadium, I know what it's like. So it's a beautiful place in December. It's probably not going to have as much snow up here or down here as you have up in the Michigan way. So congratulations on the season you had last year, and look forward to seeing you try to make that trip back down to Texas.
Yeah, we were just thrilled by our experience. Even though we fell 2 points short, we were thrilled by the way we were treated down there in McKinney. Just an awesome stadium, and just the respect we received and the support we received, and it just felt like home for us. And so obviously that's a dream to try to get back, but for now we'll focus on trying to beat Finley.
Well, congratulations on the ranking, Coach, and good luck in this upcoming season.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Now joining us on D2 Sports Football's Top 25 Preseason show is, we're proud to announce the team that has been ranked number 1 in our preseason poll, and that is Valdosta State, the returning national champions. And with us is their head coach, Gary Goff. And Coach, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Seems like you are the pick by everybody to repeat. Now, I know this is going to be your first season there in Valdosta, but you have a long history in Division II football. What's that going to be like coming on as the new coach of a defending national champion?
Yeah, I tell you, there's obviously a lot of excitement all the way around the program and from within the coaching staffs and our players. But it's different. I took over a program there at Tiffin University that really had never won any games, and we were second to last in the nation, I think, out of 168 teams. And now I'm taking over, my alma mater here, and we're the number one team in the nation. So it's a total different ends of the spectrum, that's for sure.
Now, you had a wonderful season last year at Tiffin, and obviously you're taking over a program that won the national championship. What was it like when you first, as an alum, that's got to be a great feeling, but when you first got on campus and was able to meet the new players, and what was that experience like?
Well, I think the first thing that stood out is just the talent. I mean, we have a lot of talent here. They had a lot of talent on this team last year. Obviously, that went undefeated and won the championship. That's what stood out is that, and then the fact that these young men here work really hard. I mean, there's a reason why they've been successful for so many years at this program. I think, one, we're blessed to be in this region where we got some great high school football around us. And then, two, the expectations here are high. And I think not only from our fans and community and our administrators, but from within the program, from the coaching staff and from the players. We expect to go out there and compete and compete at the highest level, every week. So that's been a lot of fun to, get to know these young men better throughout these last 4 or 5 months that I've been here. Spring practice was a lot of fun because we do have a lot of talent.
I was going to say, last year, I don't think they lost. They did lose, but they didn't. The margin of victory was not less than 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's a pretty dominant
right.
season.
Absolutely, they scored a lot of points last year. That's for sure.
So, what was it like, the recruiting coming in new to that? I mean, I know that you obviously, with your background, having gone to school there, but it's still, you're walking into an environment that's new. Obviously, it's easy to recruit for a national champion, but what was that like?
Well, there was some challenges. I got hired. There was only a week and a half left of recruiting. So they had 1 weekend official visits prior to me getting here. So as you can imagine, that last week and a half, we tried to squeeze about, 2 months worth of recruiting in.
Right.
And obviously it is fun to go around and say that, hey, we'd love you to come play for us and help us win, another national championship that we just won one. But at the same time, it's a little bit difficult because, a lot of talent out there has already visited a lot of schools and already kind of had their mind made up where they wanted to go. Now, we were able to pluck a few highly sought-after recruits, but it was a little bit of a challenge just because of the timing of everything. Had nothing to do with the success we've had here, but everything to do with there was only a week and a half to get all this done.
Well, it's interesting. In Division II, you've got the last 2 national championship football teams. In 17, it was Texas A&M Commerce. In 18, it was Valdosta State. And both programs have a brand new coach. That's probably, I don't know that that's probably ever happened in Division II football.
No, it's definitely a unique situation, that's for sure. I probably need to give old Coach Bailiff a call and just chat with him a little bit about our obstacles ahead of us. But, but it's an honor at the same time. I mean, like I said, I've been at the other end of the spectrum where you're taking over a program and trying to build it from the ground level up and change the culture. The nice thing here is, we've got a winning culture and we have high expectations. Here I've just got to concentrate on, developing that leadership from within the program. And if we do that, we got a chance to be very, very successful again. But I think all the coaches out there know that it's all about that leadership from within that team, because you can have all the talent in the world, but if the leadership doesn't come together, it's not going to be great.
Now, did you have a lot of staff turnover, or did you bring your staff over from Tiffin? How did that come about?
Well, I brought 2 coaches with me. I brought my defensive coordinator, Lee Stalker, and I brought my offensive line coach, Ryan Allgood. I was able to retain 2 coaches that were here that I'm very excited about. Our recruiting coordinator and special teams coach, Curry Webb, is being retained over, and he's a great coach and, very, very smart. And then, oddly enough, my defensive line coach, Kenny McClendon, I was able to retain him as well, but I tried to hire him a year ago at Tiffin University. And kind of a funny story there, he started slow playing me up there, and I didn't know why. Well, it's because he was waiting on the interview here at Valdosta State.
Oh, okay.
So as fate would have it, I ended up, having him on my staff anyway, just a year later.
And, it's also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to finish out the staff, but I hired Levi Brown as my quarterback's coach and Mike Johnson as my DB's coach. So,
well, it's interesting too, because coaches obviously get a lot of success at Division II. They're going to get the phone call to move up. I know that's what happened at Texas A&M Commerce. Coach Garthel went up to Stephen F. Austin. I know that that's kind of tough on the fans a little bit, but they just enjoy success. And obviously, with your success at Tiffin, the target's on your back now at Valdosta State.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, like I said, it's a lot better to be in that situation than the other, where you're just hoping to win a game and just hoping to one day have a shot at the playoffs, So, we all understand we're in the, very competitive business. And, I don't care how good you are or how bad your program is. Every weekend you got somebody that's, out to get you. So,
well, yeah, Coach Landry once told me it's two options. It's hired or fired. It's one of the two.
Right. Well, that's like Coach Bowden. He said there's two kind of coaches. Those that have never been fired and those who haven't been fired yet.
Exactly. So, well, we know it's not going to be a situation with you right now, obviously. Talk about your team that you're bringing back or that's coming back at Valdosta State, and what do you look for offensively and defensively?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We got our quarterback coming back. He's only going to be a junior, and that's Rogan Wells. He was runner-up Harlan Hill last year and had an unbelievable game in the national championship game. Many think that he should have won that, but that'll give him a little bit more ammunition for the season, I guess. But Rogan's only going to be a junior, very, very talented young man. He's exactly what you want in a quarterback. Also on the offensive side, we have Adonis Seeley, a senior offensive lineman coming back who has been an all-conference player and a really good player. He's going to kind of be the anchor of that offensive line. And then, at the skill position, we've got a lot of talent there. Whether we got two running backs that rush for 1,000 yards or a little more, and then we've got four receivers that saw a lot of action last year. So, offensively, we're returning a lot of firepower. We're going to run the air raid offense. You're there in Texas, so I play for Hal Mummy and Mike Leach, so you've seen a lot of that before. So we're going to spread it out and fast-paced, no huddle, and play basketball on grass, basically. On the defensive side of the ball, we're kind of anchored right there on that defensive line as well. We got Joe Mazzone, our senior defensive lineman, who was an all-conference player last year as well. But he's a dominant force there inside. We've added a few more pieces to the puzzle right there through some transfers. In the linebacker area, we got Jamion Gaskin, who saw a lot of playing time last year as a freshman, so he'll be a sophomore with a lot of experience. And then in the secondary, we got a plethora of DBs and a good bit that's transferred in that should add a lot of depth there as well. But defensively, we'll be attacking style defense. I want my defense to be like the offense, and that's kind of living on the edge right there and being extremely aggressive on both sides of the ball. For the average fan to watch us, I don't know if you would notice a whole lot of difference between the system they ran last year and our current system. I mean, we're both were spread, and on defense, both of them were based out of a 4-3 that got to a 4-2-5. So there'll be a lot of similarities in the style of play.
Well, that was what I was going to ask next. I mean, typically, obviously, when you see a coaching change, it's because the previous administration wasn't successful. This is a much different situation. So how much do you bring in that is different so that, because people are going like, gosh, he brought something in different and we lose. I mean, what that expectation game's like.
Yeah, obviously there's some differences, but even the players, after going through, we've only had 15 workouts in spring practice, so it's not a whole lot of time to teach somebody a new offense and defensive scheme. But when we were doing that, a lot of the players, Coach, that's exactly this right here. We just called it this last year. So I think even the players have recognized a lot of the similarity in the schemes. And let's be honest. I mean, Valdosta State here, even back, from the early '90s, when the air raid was kind of born.
Right.
The fans here and everybody in this region here expect to see you throw the ball here. I don't think they'd ever hire somebody to come in here and run the triple option or something.
Right. It's not going to be a fundamental change.
Right.
Right. Well, Coach, I appreciate your time, and once again, congratulations. I know that you got a lot on your plate. One last question. When you're talking about the players, what do they do? Obviously, when school's out, it's not the pros where there's full control, but what do the players do during the summer, and how much, oversights, how much can you supervise what they're doing to be ready for the fall?
Well, we're a lot different than pros, and we're a lot different than Division I. Even today, Division I, there's a lot of things they can do with their players during the summer. Myself and the coaching staff, we can't do anything with them this summer. We can't oversee them at all. Now our strength coach does. The strength coach and his staff does, and so we've had large numbers here throughout the summer, lifting and running all summer long. And we've got a large number of guys that are in summer school as well and around. So, we do see them, but, we're not allowed to be on the field with them or in the weight room with them and kind of, coach them up and talk ball or anything. So, a lot of it's up to them. It's all voluntary, and, it's up to them how hard they want to work. But the encouraging thing for me right now is I know there's a large group here in town, and they seem to be refocused and hungry to do it again. And that's what it takes at this level, a lot of commitment from the student athletes themselves, because, we have a lot of time like this where we can't do anything with them.
Yeah, I heard from some players at Texas A&M Commerce, it's peak or repeat. You don't want to peak. You want to repeat. And so do they take the initiative to maybe have their own kind of organized practices in the summer? Do they do anything like that? Are they allowed to do that just on their own without the supervision of the coaching staff?
Yeah, they're allowed to do anything they want.
Okay.
But they can't have a coach out there on the field with them and instructing them what to do. Even the strength coach, when he gets done working them out, he walks off the field. He's not even allowed out there. So, but I think we got a large group of guys here. We'll know on report date, exactly, who was here, I guess.
Right.
But I'm excited about it. The first couple of months here were difficult because everybody wanted to parade around the national championship trophy, and then the players got their rings. That seemed like that was the only topic around. So I'm glad that that's behind us and we've turned the page. And I'm excited to get back with our young men at the beginning of August to really make sure that they have refocused and that we're up to the task again.
Well, with the last two Division II national championship coaches no longer at their university, and the program's still very dominant programs, it could be a Hollywood situation in McKinney, Texas, where Texas A&M Commerce David Bailiff in his first year faces Coach Gary Goff of Valdosta State in his first year. That'd be quite the Hollywood script.
That would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, and if there's anything we can ever do for you, please reach out to us.
Okay, well, congratulations, Coach, on that ranking, and let's see if you have that at the end of the season, and good luck with this upcoming season.
Hey, thank you so much.
Welcome back to the D2 Sports Top 25 Preseason Poll Announcement Show. This is Dwayne Horner. I'd like to thank all of the head coaches that joined us today, and we had a few athletic directors. I'd like to thank them as well for joining us here on the announcement show. But let's have a recap of the top 25 teams in America according to D2Sports.net. At 25, New Haven. At 24, Azusa Pacific. At 23, West Alabama. At 22, Hillsdale College. At number 21, Wingate. Number 20, Westchester. Number 19, Harding. Number 18, Fort Hays State. Number 17, Colorado School of Mines. Number 16, Midwestern State. Number 15, Slippery Rock. Indianapolis in at number 14. Minnesota State Duluth at 13, West Georgia at 12, Colorado State Pueblo right outside of the top 10 at number 11, and our top 10. Number 10, Lenore Ryan. Number 9, Northwest Missouri State. Number 8, Grand Valley State. Number 7, Ouachita Baptist. Number 6, Notre Dame College. Number 5, Texas A&M Commerce. The Tarleton State Texans at number 4, Minnesota Duluth at 3, Ferris State at number 2, and our top pick, Valdosta State. Thanks for joining us here on the announcement show. Be sure to always go back to football.d2sports.net for more coverage of Division II football right here at d2sports.net. Thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you on our season kickoff show here in a few weeks.